Good morning. Thank you so much for joining me. Natasha Anand here. And this morning I'm going to be talking about the ancestors and working with the ancestors. A few people very recently, over the last few days, have contacted me and asked me for guidance on working with their ancestors as they are currently in a situation of lockdown, being tied down to a location, and it feels like a beautiful opportunity to do this work, to venture into this aspect of our life. So I wanted to share a little transmission that kind of put a bit of text behind this work, about sharing a little bit about why we might work with our ancestors and how this can be beneficial to us, beneficial to those around us, and how we can actually start to do that. So I have been working with my ancestors for quite a while now. I was very blessed to have some teachers who were able to guide me on this journey very early on in my spiritual journey, in my spiritual path. And the first thing that I learned was the importance of making ourselves known to the ancestors. So not just to our ancestors, but our own personal ancestors, but to all of our ancestors. So we have not just our own lineage, our own ancestral lineage, our bloodline, this body that we have expressed as a vehicle for this journey, is created from the DNA of our parents, our mother and father, and their parents and their parents. And actually, I was already, as an egg, unfertilized egg, inside my mother in her ovaries when my grandmother gave birth to her. So we are linked very far back down the ancestral line to all of our grandmothers. So our grandmothers create the eggs for their granddaughters to come into existence, and this chain goes back and goes back and goes back. And it's often thought by many indigenous cultures that what we do right now can impact 7 generations back in the ancestral line. The healing that we do now, the communication that we have now, several generations of ancestors, and I believe even more than just 7 generations. So we have this physical body, we are body, we are soul expressing as body, and have our own ancestors from our bloodline. And then we are also located somewhere on this beautiful planet, and we are also then connected to the ancestors of that land. So I am here in Manchester in the UK, and I'm also connected to the ancestors of this land. And those might be very close generations, and they're also generations further and further back that may have really tended to this land and cultivated the energies in this land in a different way, in a special way. Every person that has lived in this abode, that has lived on this land, in this particular location, will all have tended to the energy here in their own particular ways. And all of the land is connected with energy lines, dragon lines, and different energetic points of interest, shall we say. Perhaps there's a crossing of energy lines near or on the land where you live. Maybe there's a vortex, maybe there are streams or other points of interest that gather energy, where energy can be worked with. And people often gather in these places and cultivate the energies here, and that helps to really anchor this energy in and stabilize the energy in this area so that we can be more connected. So the work that the ancestors have done on the land is also very important for us to tune into and give thanks for. So I would say the first thing, the most important thing in the important tool and practice when working with our ancestors is first and foremost to really honor the ancestors, really recognize their presence in our life, recognize the support that they have lended us in order to be where we are right now, whether that's through the ancestral bloodline and also cultivating the energies here in this land, in this home. I live in a very old house. It's over 100 years old, and I can feel that there has been a lot of love put into this building. I can feel the energy of the people here before, and I get have become a beautiful temple space now because each and every person that's lived here has had a part to play in that. And so I honor all of those ancestors, and I do that as a practice, as a articulated, specialized practice of going into a space of receptivity, to be open and receptive to the energies around me. And also I go into a space of offering, of making an offering of myself, of my energies, of perhaps something physical to the energies that I'm working with. This is how we start to create ceremony in our lives. Ceremony is simply celebrating. It means it's a celebration. So we can create a ceremonial anything, absolutely anything, to play and to work and to just flow through life. And everything really is a ceremony. Get to a place of joyous, graceful connection to your life and to what's around you. You start to, I've begun to realize that everything is a ceremony. And so this honoring and this gratitude I give to the ancestors is through ceremony. So I sit and I tune in, and I will quietly, or I will articulate that out, maybe to a group that I'm working with, or maybe if I'm in a family or a tribal situation, I will articulate that out and simply say that I honor and give thanks to, and also call into this space, the ancestors of this land, my ancestors, and all of our ancestors. And what we're asking is for their presence, their energetic presence. Now, I want to just add something here, because I remember lots of stories, different stories of my ancestors growing up, of my grandparents and my uncles and aunts and their parents and so on. And I also heard lots of stories about the collective ancestors. So my ancestors came from India, and they emigrated to Mauritius under the movement of indentured labor, which was created a company following the fall of slavery. It was a modern day new type of labor system that would indenture the laborers. And so ancestors left their land to move to a land they'd never been to, an island in the middle of nowhere, a beautiful island, in order to create a new life. And they left, hundreds of thousands of them left, knowing that they would never return to that land. So this is a story that I have always had, yet it took me the best part of my life up till now to really understand what was at the heart of that movement, and to allow the truth, so shall we say, I'm saying this because, the truth according to my own perspective and my own experience of that to arise for me. I used to think that our ancestors were a bit more primitive, more like not as educated. They didn't know things and say or certain kinds of emotions based on what people, because I never really spent time 5, 6 years ago that my ancestors was just not my story that I'd heard and put together. And now that I've started to create, I created my own connections with my ancestors, and this is 8 years down the line now of doing this work and having this communication, having had direct, communication with my ancestors, with my grandmothers particularly, where we're right here and they're as clear as day, and their speech is clear as day. I can hear it as if they were sat next to me. I can hear their thoughts. I can understand their attitude and what it is that they want to say to me, and they show me things about their life and about our lineage. It's I'm realizing that often the stories that we create of our ancestors are fabricated in some way and based on, not based on the whole truth. And so one of my biggest pieces of guidance to you, my second piece, would be to almost be willing to forget, about your ancestors, what your ancestors. Be willing to let go of the stories, the interpretations, and the understandings that were perhaps cultivated from somebody else's viewpoint or someone else's story or a collection of stories. Be prepared to examine that and then release it, because as you do work, you will think. If you can be willing to let go, that message, if you can be willing to let go of old stuff, and if you can accept that there's a possibility that the old stories aren't resonant or a way that you want to receive, or you're going to receive those messages. So that's my second piece of guidance, is really be to examine the stories and so the answers are always working with and around their guiding us. The ancestors live in other realms. They have moved on to their other lives. Their spirits have reincarnated into other bodies, yet an aspect of their higher selves also still exist in a dimension that we can be connected to them. and there's lots of us about. So when we start to really activate these technologies and activate this curiosity and this desire to connect with the ancestors, it's really important to let them know that, because then they can really come. It's this idea that we're sovereign, free-willed beings, and unless we give our permission, those energies, those entities, those beings aren't going to come and interfere with what we're doing in any way. They're not going to come and show up in a generally speaking, and start to poke their noses around. I mean, they do. Let's face it. A lot of us have our initiations that way. A lot of us realize and wake up to this stuff by feeling the presence of our ancestors and them, being around us, and then we start to realize that that's what's happening. And also, as a general practice, to let the ancestors know that we are here when we're really ready to receive their messages and their teachings and their guidance is also a really beautiful practice, a really important practice in establishing that connection. And it's as if we're embodying an intention that we have, which is I am connecting to the ancestors. So we state our intentions in a way that's already fully realized. If we want to pull that reality into our existence, if we want to collapse into that reality, we state the intentions as fully realized. We can also state them as I will. However, I feel that it's more powerful to state them as fully realized, because then that is what nature reflects back to you. The fake it till you make it kind of analogy is very relevant, actually. So, but we're not faking it. We're going to embody what it is that we want to collapse into, what we desire in our life, and then nature is going to reflect that back to us. So it's like we're creating this intention and saying, I am connected to my ancestors. And so then that is what starts to get reflected back to us. And it's really fun. We can see who turns up. And sometimes it can also be a little disconcerting. It can be a bit spooky. It can even be destabilizing if we ourselves are not in a fully stabilized, steady place. If we are doing a lot of this kind of connective work with spirits and beings, and we're connecting a lot to astral dimensions or other realms and dimensions, but we're not really grounded in the here and now, our root isn't really grounded and connected to the earth, we're not practicing and cultivating energies in our lower chakras to ground and root us onto this earth, and what happens is we can literally sort of just fly off, because we have this energy system, the Kundalini energy system, of infinite potential energy that rises from the root, the base of the spine, up the system. And so if that energy is rising and it's just kind of staying up here, and we're doing lots of this activation, then the energy is always coming up and it's always going up here, and we start to kind of lose this connection to the energy down here, and we literally become so activated up here that our mind starts to lose a little bit of a sense of it all. Our mind starts to kind of really full on come into protective mode, because we're connecting with all these different energies, and the mind can come in to really protect us. And the mind can get really confused, and the mind can become fragmented also from all these energies coming in and interfering with our systems without this intrinsic connection that we need to Mother Earth. So it's really important to stay grounded and connected. I have witnessed a lot of people becoming even further destabilized because they're not doing this lower triangle work with the Kundalini system. They're doing a lot of the upper work. So again, the most just useful way of connecting with the ancestors, whether it's through meditation or through going inwards and connecting that way. But one of the most stabilizing techniques to use is to combine that communication excuse me, with rituals with earth rituals, rituals that also connect us into the earth at the same time. So most mornings I do what's called a puja. And a puja is the Yoga Vedantic way of connecting in with the energies all around us. It's from my own ancestral lineage, the Vedantic lineage. So we combine tuning in and honoring and calling in and giving thanks to all the different energies that we work with, including the ancestors, by first and foremost connecting to this land. So we are seated on the earth, and we take each of the elements, a representation of the elements, and we offer that to all these energies that we work with as a way of saying that I recognize that I'm a creative being on this planet, and I'm creating as just a very as a very means of existing on this earth, and I'm offering these elements and recognizing that creative capacity and offering these elements to all of the energies that I work with as a part of a devotional practice, as a part of giving thanks. So I'm doing lots of things in lots of different layers here. I am honoring and recognizing these energies that I'm working with. I'm also honoring and recognizing being rooted onto the earth and working with the celestial energies of the sun, for example, because I chant the Gayatri mantra, which is about invoking the energy of the sun within. And I also tune into my ancestors and I offer the elements. So I'm further embedding myself into this physical reality. And the elements are also related to our chakras. So we have the root is related to our earth. So I can tune into my connection with the earth. And the water is related to the sacral. So I can tune into my relationship with my sacral chakra, which is also very much where we store a lot of our ancestral energy and ancestral trauma and wounding here. It's also where we create new life. And again, our ancestors are a part of that process. Our Manipura or solar plexus is where our fire is represented. And then as we move up, we have air represented at our heart chakra, anahata, and at the Vishuddha, the throat chakra, is the ether. So we have all the elements stabilizing us into the earth as we move up into our upper chakras. And we very much work at stabilizing and unblocking the lower chakra so that the energy can rise and activate the upper chakras. So the lower triangle, the first three, and the upper triangle of then the fourth, from the heart, the throat, the third eye, and the crown. This is the upper chakra that is activated through the Kundalini energy rising. And all of our energy systems play also a really important part in connecting with our ancestors, because we activate our technologies, and this helps us to really navigate this communication multidimensionally. So working to clear our chakras is also really important. Establishing the connection of the lower chakras, clearing them so that we can anchor in and allow the energy to rise and activate. So this is the balancing of our Kundalini energy system, the activating of our Kundalini energy system in the correct manner. And there's a lot of misinformation out there which is aligning Kundalini energy just to the sacral, to our sacred sexuality, or Tantra just to sexuality. Tantra is energy expansion, and it's the practice of expanding and evolving our energy so that we can activate our technologies fully. And that is connecting all of our chakras. And again, this is how we then develop all of these technologies that allow us to really communicate in a multidimensional way with our world around us, including our ancestors. Such an important part of that. So staying grounded, I can't just talk about that in isolation, like connect to the earth. That's why I have to bring in these teachings of Kundalini and the chakras. We also have an opportunity here to correct some of the knowledge that's been coming in that hasn't necessarily been full and correct. And it's really important to understand how we are whole beings, and we have a holistic system, an integrated system. And when we work with the system in an integrated way, in a holistic way, we can activate fully and enjoy fully the technologies that we have been gifted with and that we have expressed through physical in order to enjoy this existence. So, yeah, I think I've shared enough tools to get you going in getting you curious and tuning into working with your ancestors. And I'm going to leave with the sentiment of receptivity. So I practice particular practices in order to cultivate receptivity, and receptivity is, as I was mentioning at the beginning of the session, really important for us to be able to receive the energies from the world around us and the different realms around us, and to be able to tap into our multidimensionality. So we can do practice to cultivate that. And the more and more that we integrate this into our daily routine through simply practicing to be receptive, sitting in meditation and just saying, I'm open, and being patient with that and not projecting any expectations like, okay, I'm going to sit now and I want to hear from my ancestors. And if I don't, that means that something is wrong. Is it practicing receptivity? Patience comes with the practice of receptivity, because we may be sitting here for weeks and weeks and months and years until we start to really feel those innate deeper connections with the energies around us. And so if you're committed and you're willing and you have stopped, you've worked on whatever you need to work on to stop projecting your expectation, then you will connect in much more quicker than years. You will connect in and you will start to receive that which is coming to you. And we teach deserving students, and by deserving, authentically deserving students, what we mean as a teacher is like those students that really are willing to do that work. They're willing to be in a state of receptivity. And so that comes with certain level of personal responsibility of practice, and I tuning into and identifying what it is for you that's important, and stopping and starting to close down those unnecessary frequencies that you're tapping into. A lot of people right now are tapping into a lot of conspiracy theories and looking for something to blame as to what's happening, and looking, it's a part of these compulsive tendencies that we have, this neurosis of the mind that we have, which is very natural for all of us, very natural for me, and we spend our lives working on them. So it's important to tap into, like, what are these compulsive neuroses of my mind that are keeping me locked into this way of being. So I need to look for something to blame or to judge, and it's keeping me locked into searching for these conspiracy theories, or searching for someone to blame, or whatever it is, like searching for the fear and like projecting the fear, and whatever it is that's keeping us locked into that place that's actually preventing us from being receptive, from being open and willing to receive. Because in the back of the mind, we have that niggling doubt, the doubt that's caused because we're still allowing ourselves to seek and grab and attach and be in bondage with this stuff that's irrelevant, and that's actually, much of it is designed to keep us anchored into this 3D realm, into fear and into trauma. It's keeping us anchored here. So be receptive, be humble and genuine, and know that your journey has to start somewhere. And it all starts with all of us into really just going inwards, connecting in, and that with that authentic, curious, heart-based inquiry, the connection with our ancestors will be made and will expand and will evolve in your own way. And from there, you start to receive the innate creative wisdom of the creative intelligence and of your own lineage and your own higher self. You will start to be guided yourself, develop new tools, and you will know where to go from here. So yeah, I'm going to share a deeper transmission for my students and my clients very soon on this topic. If you have any questions, please contact me. I so enjoyed sharing this. Is very special work that is close to my heart. I have a free course out at the moment, which I developed with my husband, called Protect Your Mind, Body, and Energy Fields, which shares simple tools for you to protect your mind, body, and energy fields from a place of love and devotion for yourself. And much of this work is the foundation that we're sharing is the foundation for doing this ancestral work. It's really going to really put you in a great position to springboard and expand and open more from here. So yeah, enjoy that, and also look out for a new course that we've also launched called Holistic Medicine Practitioner Training, which is for holistic practitioners. We're going to be talking more and more about that on our social as the time goes on. Have a beautiful day. Namaste.